Hello everyone, this is Sumerian, and this tutorial is going to be on the basics of a challenge maker. Now the challenge maker is a slightly more complicated creativity toy. It's got a lot of options that go to it and a lot of possibilities. And so I'm going to go over a lot of the options in it just so that you can better understand the challenge maker. Now the main purpose of a challenge maker is to simplify the process of making a event in a toy box. And the way a challenge maker simplifies it is it has a few options pre-built into it. When you step on it, it's going to give you a title and description, and that is a great way to tell the player what you're expecting of them, what's expected to happen, what they need to do. And so right here you can do a title and a description. And it's also great for events where you want to track the player's score, or you want to track how quickly they do something, or how long they can keep something going. It's great based on, as you see here, score or time. It does excellent in those type of events. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go over the logic connections you can make to it, the logic connections you can make from it, and what they actually do. Now, one of the logic from the challenge maker, some of them seem a little odd, and you might be wondering, well, when would I use this, when would I use that? Because as you can see here, there's a total of 6 possible send messages you can send out the challenge maker. Now the first one, invites accepted, is the first one that happens right after you step on a challenge maker, and it gives you the option to start a challenge. When you hit OK, if there's multiple people in the toy box, next window will pop up waiting for all players to accept. And once everyone's accepted, that's when that invites accepted logic will shoot off. So it's the best piece of logic to do to get your challenge ready. If there's logic gates that need to be reset, if there's replayers that need to be cleared, it's a great time to do it at invites accepted. Now the next logic connection is started. And that's going to fire off after your 3, 2, 1 go counter happens. When it says go, challenge is started, and that is when a logic connection or a trigger event will happen under the logic connection of started. Now the next 3 can be somewhat confusing because there's game ended, game completed, game failed. The easiest way to explain them is game ended will fire off whether you win or lose. Even if you abort the game, game ended will fire off. So it is great for clearing enemies that you want to get rid of when the challenge is over and things like that. It's good for turning off timers and all sorts of things, but it's great for stuff you want to happen whether or not the player wins the challenge. And that's another thing about challenge makers, is a lot of people, I would say probably 80% of people who use the challenge makers, don't actually put in a game failed option. They'll put a timer, and when it's up, they'll count how many something you picked up or something, but they don't ever put in a game failed option, which is absolutely fine. There's not too many reasons to actually use game failed unless it's actually important to the gameplay of your toy box. So game ended fires regardless, and it also fires as soon as the game is over. Because game completed, once you've completed a challenge, and let's actually put a way to complete this challenge very quickly. I'm going to put a button, and when you push the button, the game's going to be over. So I'm going to put a button here. I'm going to say if you press it. Now here's some of the logic you can attach to a game maker. You can start the game. Now complete the game means you win, and game failed means you lose. And then there's these log players, and I'll explain those in a bit. Oh, I didn't even attach it. So I'm going to say that button completes the game. So now if I hop on the challenge maker, the invites accepted is already fired, and then 3, 2, 1, and game started would fire right then. So now the challenge is going. Now when I push this button, these effects that happened right there, that's from your game completed successfully, and it's only after that effect is done that your game completed trigger will fire. So as an example here, I'm going to pop up a couple party cannons just to demonstrate when things are happening. So I'm going to say invites accepted. We'll fire off the first one. Started will fire off the second one. Ended will fire off the third one. And game completed will fire off the last one. I'm not going to do a game failed because I did not choose. There's no way to fail this challenge right now. I've not put in any condition that could make you fail the challenge. So as you can see, invite accepted has already fired off. It fired off almost right away. There goes our started right after the word go. And when I push this button, this one should fire off immediately, but the far one won't. So that one is fired, but you'll see that the far one has not yet fired. And there it goes now that the celebration is over. So you've got to keep that in mind if you're doing any advanced logic, is that this game ended fires off a few seconds before your game completed does. And it's an important thing to remember at times. So that was just to show you the order in which those logic connections fire. Now there is one more after game failed, and that is results closed. And you're going to find if I put in a scoreboard or something, which I will do quickly. I'm going to put a scoreboard right there. And I'm going to put another button over here. And pushing this button is going to increment my score, player 1 score, by 1. Now, to make these two work together so that the challenge maker knows that the score based on this scoreboard can be done in one of two ways. You can either do a new score results connection from the challenge maker, or you can do a new score results connection from the scoreboard itself. It doesn't matter which way you do it. Either way will link the two together. And you'll see that the option to link has disappeared from the challenge maker because it doesn't matter which direction we did it. So there was one more option under the possible logic connections, and that option is results closed. And that is going to fire off after the game is over if you have a scoreboard or a timer attached to this challenge maker. After this game completed celebration is finished, it'll show up a scoreboard in the middle of the screen showing the scores of all the players. And after that scoreboard goes away is when the final results closed trigger will fire. And I use that to maybe clear the scoreboard or things like that. But now I'm actually going to go through this challenge maker once more. And I'm going to show you one of the things you have to remember with the scoreboard. I know this is a challenge maker tutorial, but it's important to know about the scoreboard. Is a scoreboard defaults to a win value of 3. So now that it's hit 3, and I know it's confused a lot of people before, they think their scoreboard is broken. If I hit the score again, it popped back to 0 and went up to 1 because of the setting on this scoreboard. Play to 3. After that, it automatically resets and it starts the count again. So if you need the count to go higher, you have to remember to go into the scoreboard and put the count to as high as it could possibly get to in your event, just so that it doesn't reset on you. So now it should be able to go as high as I want it to. And then I will go over and push this button, which will end my challenge. And now, see, there goes game ended, and shortly we will get the game completed to trigger. And here is our score results. So after I clear this is when that last logic connection will fire. So there's also some other important properties that we should know about in a challenge maker. I've seen a lot of people stumble on the auto start on Toybox Game Load. They turn it on, they load their Toybox back up, and they're like, why is my challenge maker not firing? Well, the key is in the title there, Toybox Game Load. So it can't just be a toy box. You have to have a Toybox Game Maker in the game and then save it as a Toybox game in order for this challenge maker to be able to auto start. Now, results score, that's going to be usually points time, but you can also do defeats, gates, enemies defeated. This is going to display or show what your results score is actually being based on. And then you can choose high to low, low to high. So the highest score wins, lowest score is the lowest ranking. Or in other situations, like say in a race, you would want to go low to high because the lowest time is the winner. And location. There's a few options you can choose there. You could say current location, the challenge maker, or locator. Current location is exactly where you're standing when the event happens. The challenge maker won't move you anywhere. Challenge maker, it'll pop you back to the challenge maker once the event is over, or you can attach a locator, which we will do shortly. Quit Toybox game when ended is exactly the same as auto start on Toybox Game Load. This only works if you're saved as a Toybox game, and then once the challenge is over and complete, it will just quit out of your Toybox game. And you can also use this to turn off that 3, 2, 1 countdown. And of course, here's just the title and the description, which you can change to whatever you want to say. So we're actually going to drop a couple locators down. And with a locator, especially when you're attaching it to a challenge maker, a key to know is that, see there's a little blue spot on one side of the challenge maker right here, or on one side of the locator right here. That is actually the direction that your character will be facing when he's sent to this locator. It's also used with vehicle spawners and stuff like that. That little nub is the direction the thing that is attached to this locator will be pointed when it appears. So as you can see, these two are both facing this way, while this one is facing this way. And we'll do a quick demonstration of showing that that is the case. I'm going to do a new locator connection. And in the locators, you can attach where player 1 starts, where player 2 starts, where player 3 starts, where player 4 starts, and the end location. So I'm going to say player 1 starts there. And I'm going to say this middle one is going to be the end location. Now, to make that end location locator work, I have to remember to go into properties and say that my end location is that locator. So, now that I step here, an important thing to know is almost instantly after the invites accepted trigger goes off, I will be at that locator. So, as I said, I am pointing in the direction that the little blue nub was facing. And if I come over here and I push this button, once the results screen is closed, I'm now going to be facing the opposite direction because that is the way that the little blue nub was facing. So I believe that is really all there is to a challenge maker. It seems complicated, but once you get the hang of them, they're very handy to use to do all sorts of events.